goats are used for sacrificial offerings and not lions. Imagine a young boy, his eyes filled with tears, running to his father. He had faced discrimination at every step, denied the right to study, humiliated for simply walking on the streets. That boy was none other than Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Seeing his son in distress, his father, a proud Subedar, despite belonging to the oppressed Mahar community, did not console him with mere words. Instead, he gave him a lesson that would shape history. He said, goats are sacrificed, but not lions. They are never offered. My son, be a lion, stand tall, fight back, and write your own history. That moment changed Ambedkar's life. He chose to be a lion. He fought against injustice, defied every obstacle and empowered millions to rise above oppression. He did not just break chains, he built a path of dignity, equality and self-respect. This is the essence of Ambedkarism, the philosophy of resilience, the philosophy of empowerment and social justice. It is a call to rise, to think, to question and to transform society for the better. Let us explore how Ambedkarism continues to shape our present and guide our future. So today we are going to discuss a vision that has shaped the course of history and continues to illuminate our path towards justice, equality and human dignity. This vision, this philosophy, this movement is Ambedkarism. It is not merely an ideology confined to books or for debates, but it is a dynamic force that seeks to transform society, to uplift the downtrodden and to empower the marginalized. It is a call to action, a clarion call for liberty, a clarion call for equality and fraternity, which Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, our Babasaheb, placed at the very foundation of human progress. Babasaheb was not just a leader, not just a leader of the oppressed, he was a leader of all humanity. He envisioned a society where every individual, regardless of birth, regardless of their background, they could walk with their head held high. He fought against the tyranny of the caste system which had shackled millions in chains of subjugation for centuries. He refused to accept discrimination as his destiny. He challenged the oppressive structures with the force of intellect, the might of the pen, and the power of relentless activism. Ambedkarism, at its core, Ambedkarism is the belief that the ultimate aim of human existence is the cultivation and expansion of the mind. It is the development of the human being into conscious, thinking, and assertive entity. A mind that refuses to bow before injustice, a spirit that refuses to be silenced, and a will that refuses to be broken. For Ambedkar, true progress was not in material wealth alone, but in the awakening of human consciousness, in the realization of one's inherent dignity, and in the relentless pursuit of justice. Ambedkarism stands firmly on the pillars of social justice. It refuses to tolerate a society where one section of people is condemned to lifelong indignity, while another enjoys privileges merely by accident of their birth. It calls for the destruction of every form of discrimination, be it based on caste, be it based on gender, be it based on class, or be it based on religion. Ambedkar's life was a testament to this struggle. He endured humiliation, he endured rejection, but he turned his sufferings into force for change. He proved that knowledge is power, that self-respect is non-negotiable, and that justice must be fought for, not agreed for. One of the most potent weapons Ambedkar wielded against oppression, it was his education. He knew that education was the key to liberation, the means by which the oppressor could break free from the chains of ignorance and chains of servitude. He urged his people to educate, educate, organize. Education was not just about learning. It was not just about learning, it was about questioning, about demanding answers, about refusing to accept myths and falsehood that justified inequality. It was about empowerment. It was about standing up. It was about saying, I am no less than anyone. Ambedkar was a fierce critic of the caste system, which he saw as the very foundation of social inequality. He understood that caste was not just a social evil, but a deeply ingrained psychological condition that robbed people of their self-worth. He refused to accept the dehumanization of Dalits and other marginalized groups. He challenged the very scriptures that sanctioned discrimination. He showed unparalleled courage in demanding not just reforms, but a complete elevation of the caste system. He knew that true justice could never be achieved as long as one man considered himself superior to another by virtue of birth. But Ambedkarism does not stop at mere critique. It is a call for political empowerment. A call for political empowerment. Ambedkar understood that without political power, the oppressor would always be at the mercy of the privileged. He believed in democracy not just as a system of governance, but as a way of life. He advocated for representation, for participation, for leadership, but within the oppressed communities. Ambedkar knew that the ballot was mightier than the bullet, that the law was the tool to forge a new destiny, and that constitutional rights, they must be fought for and defended at all costs. Ambedkarism is also a demand for economic justice. Social equality without economic empowerment, it is meaningless. He understood that poverty was not just an economic condition, but it's a weapon of oppression. He fought for labor rights. He fought for land reforms. He fought for policies that would ensure fair distribution of wealth and resources. He believed that the state had a responsibility to uplift the weakest sections of the society, to ensure that no one was left behind, to create a society where every individual had an equal opportunity to succeed. Religion, it was a battleground for Ambedkar. He was born into Hinduism but rejected it because it refused to reject caste. He sought a faith that upheld human dignity, that did not see some as superior and others as inferior. In 1956, he embraced Buddhism. He embraced Buddhism not just as a personal choice, but as a social revolution. His conversion was not an escape, but it is an assertion. It was a declaration that he and millions like him, they would no longer be prisoners of an unjust system. It was a call to embrace a belief system that valued equality, that valued our rationality over blind faith and hierarchical oppression. The legacy of Ambedkar is not confined to the past. It is alive in every movement that fights for justice, in every voice that refuses to be silenced, in every hand that writes, every hand that votes, every hand that builds, every hand that educates. Everywhere there is Ambedkar. Ambedkarism is not a relic of history, it is a force of the present and the future. It is a fire that rises from the burnt hearts of those whose lives they have been shattered by oppression. It is the cry of those who demand dignity in courts where justice is still denied. It is the strength of those students. It is the strength of those students who refuse to be victims of institutional discrimination. It is the resilience of those bureaucrats whose authority is questioned simply because of their caste. Even as we speak, caste spreads like an invisible virus beyond the borders of India. It is carried by those who refuse to let go of their imagined superiority. It is reborn in foreign lands where caste associations thrive, where discrimination travels under new names. Ambedkarism, it is the antidote to this poison. It is the weapon to dismantle every structure that upholds caste, be it in India or in abroad. If caste is the foundation of Hinduism, then it is not merely caste, but the very ideology of Hinduism that must be challenged. Ambedkarism is not just an ideology. It is a movement. It is a process of transformation. It takes the devalued and makes them valuable. It takes the dehumanized and restores their humanity. It takes the disempowered and makes them powerful. It turns empathy into action, dependency into self-reliance, ignorance into knowledge, and alienation into involvement. It is the light. It is the light. Ambedkarism is the light that leads the oppressed out of darkness, the force that turns victims into victors, and the voice that turns silence into thunder. Let us remember that. Ambedkar did not fight for one community or one cause alone. His vision was for a justice, society with justice, where no one is a slave to another. His dream was for a nation that truly embodies the spirit of liberty, equality, and fraternity. His life was a testament to the power of knowledge, the strength of character, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. So, let us not merely remember Ambedkar. Let us live by his ideals. Let us not just admire his words. Let us act upon them. Let us not just honor his legacy. Let us carry it forward. The struggle is not over, but neither the hope. The fight is not won, but neither is the spirit broken. The revolution continues, and we are all its soldiers. Ambedkarism, it is not merely a set of ideas. It is a philosophy of questioning, philosophy of analyzing, philosophy of challenging the status quo. It teaches us to question what is spoon-fed to us, to observe critically, and to analyze rationally rather than blindly accept tradition and customs. It is a doctrine of resistance against injustice, a fight for what is rightfully ours, and a relentless pursuit of social justice. Unlike many other leaders who emphasize acceptance, Ambedkar taught us to challenge societal oddities that hinder our progress. He was a patriarch who believed that the true essence of nationalism, it lies in eradicating social evils that obstruct nations' growth. To understand the uniqueness of Ambedkar, we must compare his approach with that of other prominent leaders of India. Mahatma Gandhi revered for his role in India's independence movement. He viewed untouchables as a section of society that should serve the higher caste as a form of repentance for their supposed past sins. His perspective, it was rooted in maintaining the Varna system. He believed that education should remain confined to select sects, preserving traditional caste rules. In contrast, Babasaheb, he saw education as a fundamental right for all, regardless of caste, regardless of social standing. He understood that education was the key to breaking the shackles of oppression and path to ensure that every child, whether the son of a barber, whether the son of a sweeper or a peasant, they had access to it. And India followed Gandhi's vision. Millions would have been denied education, perpetuating a cycle of subjugation. Ambedkar recognized this. Ambedkar recognized this as a calculated conspiracy by the privileged classes to maintain their dominance over the oppressed. Similarly, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sarojini Naidu, despite their Western education, despite their intellectual stature, they opposed the Hindu Code Bill, a bill that sought to grant women equal rights. Their reluctance to support gender equality exposed their orthodox mindset. While the Congress sought to reform Hindu family structures, Ambedkar alone, Ambedkar envisioned a broader reconstruction of Hindu society itself. He understood that mere political freedom was insufficient. A deeper social revolution it was necessary to establish true democracy. History has shown us that before any political upheaval, a social and religious revolution, it must precede, as exemplified by the Buddhist revolution that laid the foundation for Chandragupta's political right. Many leaders sympathized with the oppressed and acknowledged caste-based discrimination, but failed to take decisive action against discrimination. Babasaheb, on the other hand, he conducted extensive research on the genesis of caste, identifying its deep-seated roots and working to eradicate this caste system. While other leaders, they focused primarily on political reforms, but Ambedkar, he championed an integrated approach, fighting simultaneously for social, political, and economic reform. He was a solitary warrior, standing against an entire political system that ignored the plight of millions of people. The Congress, despite its claim of representing the people, they failed to even implement the bold resolution for the upliftment of the oppressed. It was only Ambedkar. Immediately after becoming a legislative member, he organized the historic Satyagraha to assert the right of untouchables to drink water from public sources. Congress party, while accommodating separate electorates for Muslims and Sikhs, they deny the same rights to the dehumanized Dalits. Ambedkar strongly opposed such hypocrisy and recognized the perils of separate electorates based on religion, advocating instead for a system that ensured real political representation for the oppressed. India has witnessed numerous political leaders, but how many of them have truly toiled among the uneducated, half-clad masses? How many worried about those denied access to public ways, public temples and public schools? Congress party was engrossed in its political strategies, while Babasaheb, a lone man with no wealth or no backing, he dedicated his life to the uplifting of the downtrodden people. There is a stark difference between fighting against an external imperial power and waging a battle against the deeply ingrained social injustice perpetuated by one's own people. Babasaheb took up the formidable challenge, often at the risk of his own life. Even if by sheer luck political independence had been achieved, what kind of freedom would it have been? Could a nation truly be free if its children were still forced into hereditary provisions of sweeping and manual labor simply because their forefathers had done the same? Would women be free if they continue to be denied equal rights in property, equal rights in wages, and equal rights in legal matters? True freedom is not just about sovereignty over land, but it is about the liberation of people from societal chains. Had Ambedkar not fought for the 6 crore untouchables, they would have continued living in perpetual dehumanization. Babasaheb, he was the most qualified man. He was the most qualified man to draft the Indian Constitution, given the regressive mindset of many political leaders of that time. Without Babasaheb, India's Constitution could have been a mere replica of the Manusmriti, reinforcing the oppression of marginalized community. His vision, Babasaheb's vision, it ensured that education, employment, and legal rights, they must be accessible to all. It is because of him that untouchables were given political representation for the first time in over 2000 years. He resurrected the teachings of the great Buddha, reintroducing India to a philosophy of rationality, a philosophy of equality, a philosophy of compassion. The hierarchical structures of religion, hierarchical structures of caste, hierarchical structures of the water system, they are the primary causes of India's historical subjugation. A nation cannot progress if education, military power, and governance they remain concentrated within a single privileged state. Even though India achieved political independence, without Babasaheb's contribution, it would have been due to stagnation and failure. He was the only leader who stuck at the very root of systematic oppression, ensuring that future generations had the tools to fight for their rights. No Mahatma, no saint, no leaders, they have ever scaled the Himalayan heights of justice and social reform that Babasaheb has achieved. Unfortunately, despite the profound impact of his work, many of those who have directly benefited from his struggles, they fail to acknowledge Babasaheb. Women who gained rights to divorce, who gained rights to property, who gained rights to wages, marginalized communities, who gained access to education, environment, they all owe their freedoms to Ambedkar's relentless fight. Yet, they are indebted, yet even after his death, he continues to be misunderstood, maligned, and marginalized simply because he was born as untouchable. Babasaheb's life, it stands as an undeniable testament to the caste-based atrocities and discrimination that still persist. The very people who benefited from his sacrifices, they continue to reinforce caste barriers, proving time and again that for many, caste remains more important than humanity itself. But we must rise above these prejudices. To truly honor Babasaheb, we must embrace his vision not just in words but in action. We must continue his fight for equality, his fight for justice, and the true freedom of all Indians. Let's see the debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar. It is an old one and it continues even today, the discussion, the debate between Babasaheb and Mahatma. They are often fueled by those who have little understanding of the lives and philosophies of these two great leaders. Truly, to appreciate their contribution, we must first recognize that while Mahatma Gandhi had a broader focus on Indian independence, Babasaheb, he dedicated his life to the eradication of caste oppression and the upliftment of Dalits. Babasaheb unequivocally he condemned caste-based discrimination and untouchability because he thinks that they are the evils that needed to be eradicated. While Gandhi, he also opposed these practices, but Ambedkar saw the caste system itself as inherently oppressive and fought for its complete annihilation, but Mahatma Gandhi sought to reform it instead of annihilation. Babasaheb led temple entry movement and demanded equal rights for Dalits, challenging centuries-old societal norms. He believed in securing legal and constitutional guarantees for the oppressed, ensuring their empowerment through political representation, through education, and through economic opportunities. In their pursuit of justice, both Mahatma Gandhi and Babasaheb, both leaders, they founded organizations to fight untouchability at the grassroots level. However, Babasaheb's approach, it was far more radical and far more institutional. He emphasized the necessity of education and economic self-reliance for Dalits, advocating for reservations in government jobs and educational institutions. Babasaheb, he wrote extensively, using his intellect and using his influence to demand legal frameworks that would dismantle caste oppression permanently. Mahatma Gandhi, he on the other hand, Mahatma Gandhi, he relied on moral persuasion and social reform to change hearts and minds of people. Babasaheb was the principal architect of the Indian Constitution and a leading voice for Dalit rights. Born into a Dalit family, Babasaheb, he experienced caste-based discrimination. It shaped his lifelong struggle against caste oppression. Babasaheb was a staunch advocate. He was a staunch advocate for a social equality, emphasizing the need for legal safeguards and political representation for marginalized communities. Mahatma Gandhi and Babasaheb Ambedkar, they had contrasting philosophies. They are shaped by their different backgrounds, different life experiences, and different social contexts. Because Gandhi, from a relatively privileged background, he sought to reform within the existing social order. But as we discussed, Babasaheb, he born into an oppressive Dalit family. He called for a complete dismantling of the caste system and other oppressive structures. So their thoughts are different, their thinking is different, their philosophy is different. Gandhi believed in gradual social reform through non-violent means. His method involved moral persuasion and encouraging people to transform their hearts and minds. He emphasized the importance of self-purification and spiritual growth in fighting social evils like untouchability. That was the teaching of Mahatma Gandhi. Whereas Babasaheb, his approach to social reform was far more radical. He argued that mere moral persuasion, it could not dismantle the entrenched caste system. But Babasaheb, legal and institutional reforms, they were crucial for ensuring the protection of the marginalized. He believed in direct political action. Babasaheb believed in direct political action and structural change to bring about social justice. But Gandhi envisioned a decentralized form of democracy rooted in village level self-governance, which we call Gram Swaraj. He believed in a moral, ethical democracy. Mahatma Gandhi believed in a ethical democracy where leaders would serve selflessly for the well-being of the community. His model emphasized cooperation over competition and was anti-industrialization. Babasaheb, a proponent of liberal democracy, he emphasized individual rights. Babasaheb emphasized individual rights, constitutional safeguards. He recognized that India needed a strong centralized government to protect the rights of marginalized groups. Babasaheb, he saw democracy as a means of achieving social and economic equality. not just political independence. But if you see the background of Mahatma Gandhi, he was born in a relatively privileged environment. He approached untouchability from a religious and a spiritual standpoint, as we discussed earlier. So, Gandhi saw the caste system as a social construct that had degenerated into a system of oppression. While Gandhi was a staunch Hindu, and Gandhi supported the principles of Varna system. He considered untouchability a sin and worked for its abolition. Babasaheb, he had lived through the deep pain and humiliation of caste discrimination. He viewed the religion which upheld untouchability as inherently unjust. Babasaheb, he was not only against untouchability, but he was also he was against the entire caste system, seeing it as an it's oppressive structure that could not be reformed but had to be destroyed. In his seminal work, Annihilation of Caste, he called for the complete abolition of the caste system. Gandhi opposed the idea of separate electorates even for Dalits during the 1932 communal law. Gandhi believed that granting separate electorates, it would divide Hindu society, isolating Dalits from the larger Hindu community. For Gandhi, this was a threat to national unity and the moral fabric of Indian society. To demonstrate his opposition, Gandhi undertook a partial to death. Babasaheb, on the other hand, he supported separate electorates for Dalits as a necessary means of securing their political rights and independence from upper caste domination. This standoff between Gandhi and Babasaheb, it culminated in the Pune Pact, where Babasaheb, under pressure, he agreed to withdraw his demand for separate electorates in exchange for reserved seats for Dalits within a unified electorate. Gandhi's non-violent philosophy, it influenced civil rights movements across the globe. It has that impact. Gandhi's vision of just society, it rooted in moral values. It continues to inspire activists working for peace, simplicity, and ethical leadership. But in the case of Babasaheb, his legacy lives on in the Indian Constitution, which enshrines equality, justice, and freedom for all citizens. He remains a symbol of the struggle for Dalit rights and social justice. His ideas on caste continues to fuel debates on social reform in India. If we truly wish to honor Ambedkar's legacy, we must move beyond simplistic debates of who was greater and who was actively worked to bring his vision of equality and justice to life. As we stand today, reflecting upon the enduring legacy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, we are reminded that Ambedkarism is not merely an ideology, it is a call to action, a movement of transformation, a pathway towards justice, a pathway towards equality, a pathway to human dignity. It is a vision that goes beyond words. It manifests in the continuous struggle for social upliftment, democracy, fraternity, and the assertion of human rights. Ambedkarism is rooted in the profound understanding that society is never homogeneous. It is composed of various classes. Throughout history. Some have been subjugated while others have exercised dominance. Ambedkar taught us that caste as an institutionalized system of social stratification is not just a relic of the past, but it is an active force that perpetuates inequality. He stood against this injustice not with mere rhetoric, but with rigorous scholarship, legal framework, and a determined political will. So we must remember that Ambedkar's fight was not against individuals, but it is against oppressive system. It is against oppressive system. He believed that true democracy is not just about voting rights or representation in government. It is about creating a society where fraternity, liberty, and equality are deeply embedded in every aspect of human interaction. He championed the rule of law, knowing that justice must not be left at the mercy of benevolence, but it must be secured through robust institutions, constitutional safeguards, and social consciousness. His emphasis on fraternity is perhaps one of his most revolutionary contributions. While liberty ensures personal freedoms and equality ensures legal and social justice, fraternity ensures that the bonds of human solidarity remain unbroken. Without fraternity, the very foundation of democracy crumbles. Democracy foundations will be crumbled. He envisioned a world where individuals do not merely coexist but stand together in mutual respect, dignity, and shared purpose. He reminded us that the battle for justice is not just the responsibility of the oppressed, but of every conscious individual who values fairness and humanity. And finally, Ambedkar, Babasaheb, he was not just a political leader. Babasaheb was a thinker, he was a reformer, above all, he was a visionary. He was a visionary. He knew that true empowerment of marginalized communities would not come merely from political consciousness, but through education, economic independence, and self-respect. He donned the suit not just as a fashion, not just as a fashion statement, but as a symbol of defiance, breaking the shackles of caste-based prejudices that sought to dictate how a person should live, how a person should dress, or how a person should even dream. His life was a testament to the idea that knowledge is the ultimate weapon against oppression, and that self-determination is the key to dignity. His advocacy for separate electorates for the scheduled caste, it was not just a political maneuver, but a strategic effort to ensure that the most oppressed had their own voice in governance. Though he faced opposition, he did not waver in his pursuit of justice. Even after the Pune Pact, he continued to push. He continued to push for mechanisms like the Settlement Commission to ensure a dignified existence for the marginalized. But Ambedkarism is not just about the past, it is about the present and it is about the future. It is about us. It is about whether we choose to stand up against discrimination, whether we choose education over ignorance, whether we embrace fraternity over division. The fight against caste-based oppression, gender discrimination, and economic disparity is not over. It continues. The fight continues in every unjust law that remains unchallenged, in every child denied education due to their social status, in every individual who faces discrimination for their identity. To be an Ambedkarite today is to walk the path of justice fearlessly, to educate oneself and others, to fight for the rights of the underprivileged, and to uphold the values of democracy with unwavering commitment. It means understanding political power is not an end in itself, but it means to secure dignity, secure justice, and secure progress for all. It means rejecting blind faith and embracing rational thought, questioning social hierarchies, and striving for an inclusive society where no one is left behind. Ambedkar's life was a beacon of hope, beacon of resilience. He was born into adversity, yet he rose to shape the destiny of a nation. He faced resistance, yet he never surrendered. He was often isolated, yet his ideas ignited a revolution. Today, as we reflect upon his contribution, let us pledge to carry forward his vision, not as passive admirers, but as active agents of change. Let us educate ourselves and others, for education is the greatest weapon in our hands. Let us assert our rights and extend our hands to those still struggling to find their voice. Let us not merely commemorate Babasaheb, but let us embody Babasaheb's spirit in our daily lives. For the battle against injustice is not fought in grand arenas, but in the choices we make every day. In the courage to speak against the discrimination, in the determination to uplift the marginalized, and in the conviction to build a world where fraternity, democracy, and equality, they are not just ideals, but they are the lived reality. Babasaheb's final call to us, it was to educate, hesitate, and organize. Let us not allow his words to remain echoes of the past. Let them be our guiding light, our moral compass, and our unwavering resolve. Because the true tribute to Babasaheb is not in words, but in our action. It is not in mere remembrance, but in revolution. Let us march forward with courage. Let us march forward with wisdom and unshakable belief in justice. But that is the true essence of Ambedkarism. Babasaheb dedicated his life to fighting against the brutal oppression of Dalits. Even today, many Dalits, they face untouchability. We are in 2025, still there is untouchability, social boycotts, violence. They are denied access to temples even today, public ways and roads, forcing them to live in segregated settlements. Social boycotts, they deprive them of essential goods and services, pushing them into deeper marginalization. Still, even today, physical brutality, it remains a harsh reality. Dalits have been flogged, mutilated, and even killed for minor or perceived transgressions. Dalit women suffer. They suffer horrific sexual violence. They use it as a tool of dominance by upper caste men with little to no justice. Many Dalits, even today, they trapped in forced labor and bonded slavery, working without wages under inhuman conditions. Education, the key to progress, it was historically denied to them. Those who tried faced cruel punishments. Even today, caste-based discrimination, it forces them into degrading jobs like manual scavenging. Even we see massacres, destruction of homes, and parading Dalits naked in public. They are used to instill fear and they maintain caste hierarchy. Religious and cultural oppression, it further isolates Dalits. It restricts their right to worship freely or convert for liberation. So, as we stand in 2025, the harrowing reality of caste-based atrocities, they continue to plague our nation, underscoring the pressing need for Ambedkarism in our society. If you see the examples, in January 2025, in Kerala, authorities arrested 44 men for the alleged serial sexual abuse of a Dalit girl over 5 years, starting when she was just 13 years old. In March 2023, in Hyderabad, Telangana state, Devargoda Harish, a Dalit man, he was brutally murdered in an honor killing after eloping with a woman from a different caste. In February 2023, in Chapra, Bihar, a mob lynching occurred. Mob lynching, where a young man named Amitesh Singh, he was beaten to death, escalating caste tensions between Rajputs and others. In August 2022, in Surana village, Rajasthan. A 9-year-old Dalit boy, Indra Naigwal, he was fatally beaten by his teacher for drinking water from a pot designated for upper caste. In September 2020, in Hathras, Uttar Pradesh, a sensational incident, a 19-year-old Dalit woman was allegedly gang raped and murdered by 4 upper caste men, sparking nationwide protests. In September 2020, in Balrampur, Uttar Pradesh, a 22-year-old Dalit woman, she was allegedly abducted, gang raped, and assaulted by 2 men, leading to her death en route to the hospital. In January 2018, in Ambedkar, Tamil Nadu, a Dalit settlement was attacked by a dominant caste villages during New Year celebrations. It resulted in injuries and property damage. In May 2004, in Kalapatti, Tamil Nadu, approximately 200 villages attacked Dalit localities, ransacking homes and injuring 14 people in a caste-based conflict. In 2006 September, in Kailaji, Maharashtra, 4 scheduled caste family members were brutally murdered by villagers, highlighting severe caste-based violence. These incidents are not isolated. They are systematic of a deep-seated, systematic issue that continues to marginalize and oppress Dalit communities across India. The persistence of such atrocities, it calls for a renewed commitment to the principles of Ambedkarism. Because we have to advocate for social justice, advocate for equality, advocate for annihilation of caste. It is imperative that as a society, we have to embrace Ambedkar's ideas to dismantle the structures of discrimination and violence that persist even in 2025. Finally, Babasaheb's Ambedkarism, it stands as a beacon of hope against these atrocities. Babasaheb showed that the only way to break free from oppression is through education, through empowerment, and through resistance. Education gives Dalits the knowledge and awareness to challenge injustice. Empowerment through economic and social upliftment, and it strengthens their position in society. But education and empowerment alone are not enough. We must agitate. We must raise our voices, and we must fight the discrimination at every level. Oppression does not end on its own. It must be challenged. Only through unity, awareness, and continuous struggle is we can reclaim our dignity and rights. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's life was a testament to his own philosophy. He did not beg for dignity. He fought for that dignity. He did not wait for justice. He carved a path for justice. The lesson his father gave him: goats are used for sacrificial offerings and not lions. It became the foundation of his struggle. He refused to be a silent victim. He chose to be a roaring lion who led millions towards empowerment. As Ambedkar himself said, lost rights are never regained by appeals to the conscience of the observers, but by relentless struggles. His journey was not about waiting for kindness from oppressors, but it is about challenging oppression itself. Babasaheb proved that rights are not granted, they are seized. They are seized with courage, intellect, and unwavering determination. Today, as we reflect on Ambedkarism, we must ask ourselves, are we goats waiting to be sacrificed, or are we the lions ready to reclaim what is rightfully ours? The fight for justice, equality, and self-respect is not over. It is a continuous struggle. And in this struggle, we must walk the path Babasaheb paved for us, not with fear, but with courage of a lion. Because goats are used for sacrifice or offerings, not lions. We are the lion.